I'm Dolly Vasta, and welcome back to Dolly's World. My guest today is Deb Nero. Now, I know you've all met Deb and you have seen her work because we did a show together called From Africa to Alaska, or maybe it was Alaska to Africa. I can't remember which. But her wonderful, wonderful photography, and she's also a great artist. But Deb just came back from the Galapagos, and she has the most amazing group of pictures. So I wanted her to come in here and talk to you all about them. Debbie, welcome. I know we had to get all this stuff up in kind of a hurry today, but what a great collection. But before we get into that, where are the Galapagos?
They are off the mainland of Ecuador. They're a series of islands.
You did a lot of diving.
I did some snorkeling. The waters were so cold that
Really?
I couldn't even breathe when I got in the water. So if you're asthmatic, you really can't tolerate the temperature of those waters for diving. Plus, it's pretty scary to look down and see like what looks like sharks under you, even though they're harmless for the most part. It was a little scary to look down and see that underneath me.
Well, you said you saw them stacked up. I've never seen a stack
they were
of sharks.
Sleeping. Yes, they were in the shallower waters. Actually, I was probably only maybe chest high in water and taking pictures and looking around and stuff. And all of a sudden, I see a shark move out from the rock and swim. And then I saw another one. So by now, I've got my face in the water because I want to see. And as I'm backing away, and there was a pretty good size, maybe 5-footer. They were just napping, and we were making too much noise and bothering them, so they left.
Just hanging in.
Yes, and
chilling out.
That's how it is because there's so much to eat there that they have no interest unless you were to really bother them. They don't have any desire to eat people. Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Which is good.
So the rest of your pictures then were done on land?
Most of them, yes.
Did you go from island to island to do this?
They took us out. What we did was we flew to Miami, and then we flew to I think it's Guayaquil, and then from there you get a boat, and the boat is what sailed us around all these islands. So we went I think about 7 to 9 days just touring the islands and stopping every day to see the different species on each island, because every island is different, unique in itself. So that was also part of the interest with, you see the different kinds of iguanas and birds, and then you go to another island, there's a whole different species of everything. So it's really an adventure.
You said the terrain was different in all the islands too, pretty much.
There were some that was just nothing but volcano, and you wonder how anything can live there. And then I'd see little cactuses popping up in between cracks and crevices of the volcanic rock. And then there'd be like a black sandy beach, and you'd see a sea lion, going across, with a little one, and basking in the sun. And then you'd go to another island, it'd be all jungle with the birds, the smaller birds, and tortoises, the giant tortoises. And just each one was different. One had a lot of more open grassy area and hills, and they sent us there to go search for tortoises, giant tortoises, and they look like army helmets out there. You had to look and search.
A bunch of little army helmets moving around.
They're huge, but I mean they look like a giant army helmet. So
well, you figured some of them are hundreds of years old.
They're pretty old. Lonesome George is the oldest, and he's the only one left of his species. So they've been really very diligently trying to find him a mate. They can't find one just like him, but they found some subspecies that he was very interested in. And I actually have a picture of him spotting one of them where he was like smitten with her.
Oh yeah, the look on his face is great, the grin.
Yes, and he did a little dance for her, and they still haven't had any babies. That's really what they're hoping for. So,
well, they're not afraid of people then, these creatures.
No, because people aren't allowed to be there alone. So they always have guides with you to make sure you don't go off the paths or that you don't disturb the animals. You can get very close, like as close as I am to you. In fact, I almost sat on one because it looked sea lion, because it looked like a lump of wood, and they're just laying there basking, and they don't really say anything, so you don't even notice them.
You've got to wear your glasses more when you're out there shooting, Deb.
You do.
So let's talk about some of these wonderful pictures. And I know out of the corner of my eye, there is a face that as soon as you showed me them, I fell in love with it, because I said, this is kind of what I feel I look like in the morning when I first get up. But it does make you laugh, and I laughed even harder when I heard its name. So no letters, please. It's called a frigate, right?
A frigate bird,
A frigate bird.
That's a chick.
And it's a chick.
Baby.
And it has huge, huge wingspan, you said, though when it's grown.
When it's grown, it's very large. It's, I believe it's the largest bird of prey that they have there, and probably one of the largest anywhere.
So in its grown state, its adult state, it's, you could almost take it for a prehistoric.
It's very prehistoric looking. It's very scary when you just see it sitting there on a rock, but when you see it fly, you think two things, prehistoric and beautiful, because it's just so graceful the way it just floats, and it was floating over the ship, and you can get an idea of its size by when you see it flying over a ship, just how large. The wingspan is probably from tip to tip, maybe 7 feet. It's very big.
So it's kind of an ocean vulture, so to speak.
Yes, it's the vulture of the sea. That's another name for it. A nicer name, I guess, than frigate.
Somebody maybe was angry at it. Who knows? And that's how it got the name.
Yeah.
But you have another one, and there's another one up there called the booby.
The booby, the red-footed one?
Right. Absolutely adorable.
Well, he's in love, and he's bringing a prize, a present, to a potential mate. So he looked for the biggest stick he could find, and he's bringing it to her, and this is him.
He's just adorable. He really is. At first I thought it was a penguin with red feet.
No.
But you told me otherwise, so I stand corrected. But he is adorable.
We have these two marine iguanas, which are brothers. At least that's what I'd like to think. And they're both they're both in heat.
I wonder if they had the same family name.
I don't know, but they're hanging out together, watching, looking for females, and they have the coloring, the red coloring, because it's mating season.
This is a very sexy island you were to.
Yes, they're very, very colorful, very interactive, and you wouldn't think that they'd have an emotion to them, but they do. In their own way. You can see it in the eyes of the birds and the way the reptiles respond to each other, and some of it I'm sure is just instinct, but it was pretty touching how
it's also in the eye of the beholder. You get two people. You get someone like you and who is so empathetic with animals and creatures, and then you get someone who goes, he'd rather open a can of beer somewhere. And he's saying, what are you talking about? It's empathetic. It's a lizard.
Well, it's more than that, though.
I wasn't
and
they're creatures, and they are beautiful in their own right.
They're really very pretty. In fact, when I went there, I didn't expect a lot, because I'm used to photographing bigger and furrier, like the polar bears and lions and cheetahs. And I said, well, it's different. I should try it. And once I got into it, I really enjoyed it. I really learned a lot about the birds and the reptiles especially. They were really interesting. The tortoises and just that giant tortoise, Lonesome George, and the way he responded to the females. And I never thought a tortoise would do that. He did a little dance for them.
You never know. You just never know until you go to some of these islands.
Yeah.
You have a great picture of that crab, and I said to you, I have never seen a crab with that much coloring to it. Now, is that indicative of the islands, or would you find that? Yeah.
Yes, that's a Sally Lightfoot crab. And they hang out around on the rocks and the edges of the surf, and they'll go in the water, but I don't see them staying there. Like I didn't see any when I was snorkeling underneath for very long. But they hang out in groups or alone, and they'll actually do little like dances as a group. The eyes stretch way up in their heads. They're really funny. And they move so fast. So I just love the coloring on her. And I don't recall seeing any other crabs that were as pretty as that. That's the one that stands out. So if there were any others, I didn't shoot them.
So what else did you shoot besides, you know, your boobies and your frigates and the crabs and the tortoises, your lizards? You have one shedding.
One shedding.
One shedding.
That's a land iguana, and they're very pretty when they shed too. This is Blondie. I named her Blondie. That's the the land iguana that I just got her face and her paw because I just thought she had the most unique features. Her nostrils are square. I mean, I never heard of square nostrils. And she stretches from nose to tip of tail probably close to 7 feet. She's pretty, 6 or 7 feet. And they just eat cactus and what have you, and they look scary, but they're pretty peaceful. And then there was the blue-footed boobies, which there's one behind you. You can see the look of love in the eyes of that one, trying to get the attention of a.
You know, I have come to the conclusion that you are a dyed-in-the-wool romantic. That's. You see romance in all these animals, and probably there is, and it's oblivious to everyone else but you. Tell me something, Deb. Why did you want to go to the Galapagos?
I wanted to experience something different, a totally different climate, a totally different species of animals and birds and the reptiles. And I heard they have these really prehistoric-looking iguanas, and that was the kind of thing I wanted to see. And I also wanted to do some scuba diving, even though I ended up not being able to dive because of the cold. I was still able to snorkel and see a little bit. Yeah, so.
Do they have any manatees there?
I think the water's too cold for the manatees. I didn't see any. But they do have mantas and, what do you call those? Moray eels.
Moray, yeah.
They have tons. That is the place that they say is, if you're an advanced scuba diver and you have to be advanced, that's the place to go to see the most different species of marine life, because they have just about everything. But the manatees, I believe, are more of a warmer. They like the warmer.
Well, I think actually, because I'm slightly claustrophobic, I really don't like to go underwater. Mm-hmm. I'd rather stay on top. I have had experience underwater, and I just as rather forget it. Mm-hmm. So I'd rather be on top of the land searching through things for them. But you have some, were they seals in caves?
Sea lions.
Sea lions, yes. Sea lions. They're adorable.
They're really
You said
great.
One chased you?
One chased me, a male chased me because I walked in the middle of his harem. Well, they don't really call them harems down there because they're free to leave, the females, whenever they want to. Mm-hmm. But there was a whole group of them, and they had some pups.
It's kind of like a Greenwich Village.
Yes, it's a voluntary harem. And I walked among them to go to the edge to put on my fins to go in, and suddenly this large sea lion is yelling and chasing, so I'm running backwards because now I have my fins on. Can't run forward. Screaming for someone to help me, and he just was like right in my face. It was really funny.
Would they attack?
I think he would if I kept pushing the issue, but I don't think he would. I can't imagine he would really hurt me. I mean, maybe he would.
How big are they?
Well, this one was about as high as my chin. You know, because he was standing, they have the front fins hold them up, and they can actually propel themselves along with that, whereas many others are not able to do that. I think the seals are not able to do that.
Well, he could give you a smart slap across the face with that flipper.
Knock me down, sure.
Drag you out in the ocean.
Well, they're pretty heavy, so if he just charged me and ran into me, would have been enough to knock me off my feet, I'm sure. But he wasn't interested in hurting me. He just wanted to let me know that this was his turf, this was his family and to stay away.
So what other adventures did you have there?
I think one of the more enjoyable ones was looking for Lonesome George's friend and he had 2 females in there, and just studying him and how he finally found one that he loved, because they put so many subspecies in there with him before and they all ran away.
When you say subspecies, what species are you talking about?
Well, he is a specific type of tortoise.
Right.
I think he's more of a saddleback. And
Okay.
they don't have, I'm not sure the exact name of him, but they don't have any more of him. He is the last of his species. So they have other species that are smaller than him. They're still giant tortoises, but they're nowhere near the size of him. And they've been trying to get him to mate with them, so it wouldn't be exactly what they're looking for, but close.
It's amazing to think that there is, like everywhere else, a sense of elitism within the animal species. You know, I don't like the top of his head.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, if you look at him, his neck is much longer, his legs are longer, and some of the other ones are much shorter in the neck. You know, they had a whole colony of tortoises that were a different species that were much more compact, still very large in the shell, but very compact, and they take forever to grow. I mean, they're just,
Yeah.
you know, by the time you spend any time with them at all of any size that you can actually go up to them, they're probably 75 years old by then. So
Watch your mouth. Anyway, you have so many pictures. I'd like to take a moment, so maybe we can do kind of put them all together and we can go through them.
okay.
Who are these little people here, or little critters?
This is a sea lion that was basking in the sun, and sneaking up from a distance came this guy who's a marine iguana. And then on the other side of him, which you can't see in the picture, was a booby. So they were all sneaking up on this guy who was sleeping. So they actually have a sense of humor.
They're very playful.
They are. And this one suddenly must have heard some kind of noise and was starting to wake up. So I think if we had waited there long enough, I don't know what they would have done, but I was dying to see it. We were on the boat, a little boat, and you know, we had to leave. We couldn't stay any longer, but it
So
just shows the humor in them.
In animal life, right. So go on. What's the next one?
Okay, the next one is Sandy the sea lion. She was just basking in the sun, and she kind of rolled over and kind of sat up. And
They have the most wonderful face close up.
yeah, she's got a great face. I love the whiskers.
But as you said before, they can get a little nasty.
The males.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
The
yeah.
females are pretty sweet.
There was one down on Marathon Island when we were down there, and of course I fell in love with its face, and I wanted to get over to it. And one of the guides there said to me, "Don't." He's not nice.
I guess they could
He's
bite.
adorable, but not nice. So they keep him by himself. That's the only thing I know about them. So go on.
Okay. Then we have a blue-footed booby, which I call Cold Feet. And he's just kind of sitting on the rocks looking around,
Surveying the landscape.
surveying the landscape.
And
These are masked boobies. That's the old-fashioned name for them, masked boobies, because they look like they're wearing a mask. And this one is feeding her young.
they look like young bank robbers.
They do. Then we have, this one's called Loving Family. It's a male and female masked booby with their baby. And the baby's watching them snuggle and kiss, which I thought was really sweet. She's really paying attention to everything, which is a good way to teach the young,
Yes.
the caring. And this one is a sea lion that had gone into the cave to be cool, and I didn't see her at first. I was walking along, you know, looking for something to take pictures of, and my boot got caught in the volcanic rock, and I trip, dropped my camera, and I'm thinking, this is it. I lost my camera shot. But I looked over and I saw her watching me. So I pulled the camera back up and took a picture, and obviously the camera was fine. But I just thought that was a sweet face, just sitting there watching. And then we've got, this is a really interesting marine iguana with all the spikes on his back. This one's called the Sentinel. Very
They also
majestic.
look very prehistoric in their own way.
Prehistoric and majestic, and you just got to respect that kind of a creature. I mean, the way they
I respect
for
anything that
themselves.
looks like that.
and the way they swim. They're amazing swimmers.
Really?
Yes, they're very good swimmers. And then this is a group of them. This is how they keep warm, because they're cold-blooded. So they get on top of each other, and I call this one stacked up, 'cause they're all.
Yeah.
And then this one is, when we went searching for the tortoises, this was one of the giant tortoises that I found. And as I'm approaching him, I could hear this noise, like a hissing noise. And I thought he was spitting at me, like, 'cause, you know, like a cat would do or something, or a snake. But what it is because they're so big, they have their own hydraulic system where they have air sacs that they let the air out. So it helps them raise themselves up and put
for
themselves
Pete's
down.
sakes.
So he was starting to pull inside of his shell.
It's amazing what you learn.
And you could see he'd been here so long that he actually, the spider actually spun a web across his nose, and he's kind of looking at it cross-eyed. So I call that the art of camouflage.
And over here, I know you have...
Oh, the pelican.
The pelican, the mother trying to teach the young one how to turn his mouth inside out?
Yes, how to dry wings. That was the first lesson. This is how you dry your wings. And she was getting very frustrated because the baby wasn't paying attention. She was looking at me because I was there with the camera. And she was flapping her wings and, you know, like, over here, you know, stop looking over there.
Yeah.
And then she went through this elaborate, these movements of turning her beak inside out, and she was very abstract looking at one point. You couldn't tell which was the inside of her beak, which was the outside of her beak. And they dry it every time they fish, and she, you know, would feed herself and her baby. She would dry it out so it wouldn't get moldy.
Heavens, one doesn't want a moldy mouth.
No, one doesn't.
I see.
That's how they keep healthy. But it was an interesting thing to watch with the wings and how the different positions of drying and how they discipline their young with a certain amount of flapping and, you know, this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Move it, move it, move it, move it. Where do you want to go next? What's on Debbie's agenda next?
There's a couple of places, actually. One of which I'm dying to go to, but I'm just not sure if it's a good idea. We're kind of mulling over it, and that's Uganda with the gorillas. There's been a lot of unrest in Africa, as you know, particularly the West Coast and up in the area where we would like to go. And I remember saying, you know, a year ago, I wish I could just have somebody take a helicopter, drop me in the park, let me take pictures of the gorillas, and then pick me up. Well, there's something very similar out there right now. And I think there's maybe only one tour group that's doing it, where they do fly you from a city into the park and then pick you up. We're just not sure if it's good to go yet.
I'd wait.
It's still, I'd say, 50% too much of a risk at this point.
Because if you didn't come back, I would have no reason to have you here.
That's true. That's true.
And there'd be no gorilla pictures
no
to
gorilla
talk about.
pictures. And then the other option is to go to China for the pandas, to see them. We can get, you know, you have to get special permission and everything. And then there, you know, you're dealing with the bird flu. So we're still trying to decide which is the best thing to do. So.
Well, listen, I'm getting the signals that our time is running out, you know.
Okay.
And I want to thank you because this was some job, lugging so much of this here today.
No problem.
And I really appreciate it, and I love your work.
Thank you.
the guys I know laugh at me here, but I see what you see in them, and so I love doing it. And to all of you out there, I hope you had as much fun as I did, and learn a little bit about what goes on in other places and in other lives. Thank you for coming, and I'll see you all next month. In the meantime, take care.